Right. Welcome back to the series on inspiring women for International Women's Day. This year's International Women's Day theme is Inspire Inclusion. And so what I'm doing is talking to women who I admire, who inspire me, so that we all feel just a little less alone in the world, depending on what we're dealing with. So today I'm talking to Judy. And so I would love for you to introduce yourself quickly, and then we'll talk about how we know each other.
Okay. Hi, my name is Judy. I'm 55 years old. I am from California, born and raised in Southern California. I am first generation American from parents that hail from South America, and I'm of East Indian descent. I have one grown daughter. She's 32 years old. I work in the dietary supplement industry, and I've been doing that for about 27 years. And I am a breast cancer fighter.
Awesome. All right. Thank you for sharing that, Judy. I love it.
Okay.
So Judy and I know each other because we share some friends. She went to school with my friends Mark and Nicole in Seattle. So you're not the only person who is my Mark and Nicole connection. I just interviewed someone yesterday who I
Oh,
know
wow.
because of Nicole. So and then someone else that is connected. So it's really fun to kind of play the game of how do I know this person? So Judy
Great.
and I have never met in person, but we've met online and been friends for several years. And
Several years.
we both love Wonder Woman. So that's a I have
Yes,
stuff on my board
I
back.
love it.
So yeah, so that's how we know each other. And when I was thinking about this series of talks, actually something that Judy wrote the other day passed across my vision, and I was like, oh, I want to talk about this. I want to talk about
Oh,
women need to be able to talk about these things with each other. So I would love to hear a little bit about the journey you're on and what's gotten you to this point.
so in February of 2023, so a year ago, I was diagnosed with breast cancer. Literally changed my entire world.
Yeah.
One, I don't have a history of breast cancer in my family on either side.
Right.
So this really caught me off guard. And the only way I even caught it was through routine mammograms. You know, you can't feel cancer. At least I didn't.
Yeah.
Turned out I had not just cancer, but I had bilateral cancer. And I had two different types of cancers in each breast. So since being diagnosed, I have gone through 6 rounds of chemo. I've gone through 20 rounds of radiation on my right breast, 30 rounds of radiation on my left breast. I am still in immunotherapy, which I'll be doing through April of this year. And I just started my 5-year anti-hormone pill last week. So got a lot that I'm dealing with.
Yeah.
I was also chosen to be an advocate for the Susan G. Komen Foundation, which I'll be going to the Capitol in DC in June. So I'm excited about that,
Good.
to just be a part of this whole movement on trying to find a cure for breast cancer. So
Yeah. I mean,
that's where I'm.
I think about it sometimes, it's so pervasive. I remember being a kid, little kid, and my mom going in to have a lumpectomy, right? And we did have breast cancer. We do have breast cancer history, and being terrified because I didn't know what it meant, right? And she had several over the years, and ultimately it turned out fine for her. She was a she did well, but it is such a scary disease because it can affect people of all ages at different stages. Like you said, history or no history, different kinds of cancer. It's just so complex, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
it is. It
Yeah.
is.
So
So.
I would love to hear a little bit more for you about like along this journey. Obviously, there's lots of issues with healthcare systems in general, and women's healthcare in particular, and certainly women's healthcare for women of color is even a whole nother layer of difficulty. I'm curious what you think is working in the healthcare industry right now for folks who are struggling and fighting cancer, and what you think is not working.
Ooh, that's a good question because it's going to vary from woman to woman. I mean, I've connected with so many women that can't get simple things paid for, or they don't have insurance, or it's costing them, they got to basically take out another mortgage just to pay their finance bills. It varies across the board. Fortunately for me, with my health coverage, I've been pretty fortunate to have my bills pretty low and I should say manageable for me.
Mhm.
And but we still need a lot of work because every woman, every person should be covered and be able to have the health care that they need to be treated.
Yeah.
Because this is not something, it's hard enough to deal with, and then to deal with worrying about how am I going to pay for this on top of that. No one should have to stress about that. No one should have to worry about that.
Right.
So, you know,
Yeah.
to say
Yeah.
what's really working, that's a good question. I honestly can't answer that, Leah. I
Yeah.
can't.
Yeah. I totally
Like
get
I feel
that.
like there's a lot that needs to be done to make this work.
Yeah. I mean, I think, I think having now lived in Europe for the last almost 7 years, so often people will ask me like, why don't all Americans have health care?
Right.
Why is that not a thing? And I'm like,
Right.
well, we have to have a conversation about budgets and taxes
Yeah.
and militaries, and there's so much to talk about to have that.
So much many layers to that. Yeah.
But it is fascinating to think that, when we talk about that, getting a cancer diagnosis is on the list of ways you go bankrupt in the United States.
Yes. It's
Right?
it's it's horrible. It's
Yeah.
horrible. No one should have to face that.
No,
No
no.
one.
Yeah. Especially when, to your point, like the fight itself is the hard part. That should be the hard part, not
Yeah.
also thinking, how am I gonna pay my bills? Am I gonna ruin my
Yeah.
kids' college educations? Am I,
Right.
whatever, depending on the stage you're at in life. Yeah.
Right. Right.
Do you feel like we, as women, I guess particularly people in general, but women in particular, do you think we talk about it enough? Like talk about how to, screen, how to, what the experience is, and what would it look like, do you think, if we to talk about it more?
That's one of the things I try to encourage my women friends with, because I don't think I don't know. I think maybe as women or people in general, they think this is not going to happen to me, or it's going to happen to that person, but I'm good. Yeah, I mean, there's so many different reasons why people don't take better care of themselves. And I'll be honest, I wasn't one of those people that, I need to go to the doctor this amount of times, or I have to do this. Mammograms, I was diligent on just because I was bustier,
Yeah.
and I've always had issues with density going in for my mammograms and them kind of watching it. So I was a little more diligent on that. But I do think it is so important for women to get screened annually. I
Yeah.
mean, by the grace of God, I caught it early.
Yeah.
I was stage 1 in my right breast, stage 2 in my left breast, which is fairly early. And that's only because I was doing routine mammograms.
Yeah.
Had I not, Leah, I don't know where I would be right now.
Right.
I just lost one of my best friends to breast cancer yesterday.
Yeah.
Yesterday. And she was diagnosed 2 months before me. So
Um,
it's so important for women to get out there and do it.
Yeah. And I think about, there's a comedian in the UK who was talking about his girlfriend. His girlfriend's a physician, and she told
Mhm.
him that so many women don't get cervical screenings or mammograms or things like that because there's so much body shame in
Yes.
the medical industry, right? And so women won't go get a cervical screening because they're afraid of how they smell, or
Oh,
they won't go get a mammogram because they're afraid of the nudity element and being judged for their body. And I think, what the hell?
that's sad. That's sad.
Yeah.
I never even thought about that. That's
Yeah.
sad
And
and
that,
scary.
yeah, it's scary that like even those of us who have access
Yeah.
might not take advantage of access because we've so taken on what the world says about body and body image and all
Hmm.
that, right?
Yeah. It's
So
sad. Unfortunate.
yeah, because I think for me, like I said, part of the reason I'm doing this series of interviews is there's so many topics that I have conversations with, and somebody will say, "Well, no one ever told me that."
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, yeah, okay, that's
Yeah.
not good, right?
Yeah. Wow. Yeah.
So interesting. So
Crazy.
How has, I mean, I know that your whole, like your day to day and everything has been disrupted and by sort of having this fight. What do you
Mhm.
do to sort of stay as balanced as possible while you go through this fight?
Oh, you know, nothing, which is a bad thing. No, but seriously, that's a great question because going through this, you don't realize how much you really need to take care of yourself. It's so easy to succumb to, oh, I'm sick, I don't feel good, I'm just going to stay in bed. But that's not a good thing. I've had to force myself. And one of the things I did, I work from home. My work has been very, very supportive of my whole journey. So, if I need to sleep, sleep, Judy. If do whatever you can. It's not like I have to get up and go into an office every day.
Sure.
But during my treatment, even as sick as I was, I would make myself get up out of bed, come downstairs to my office. I didn't take any sick days during my whole treatment. I didn't take disability. I continued to make myself work so I would not sit in my sickness.
Yeah.
I had to do something in order to keep me from thinking about being sick.
Yeah.
And a lot of cancer is really mind over body.
Hmm.
And one of the things my oncologist told me from the very get-go, you need to stay positive.
Yeah.
If you stress, that stress is going to exasperate cancer, and that's not what you don't want. You
Yeah.
you need to stay positive. You need to believe that you're going to beat this and go with that. And that's what I have been telling myself from day one. Stay positive. You're going to be okay.
Yeah. It's like it sounds similar to any area of our lives where we get sort of sunk into over identifying with what's happening to
Mhm,
us and losing
mhm.
sight of what's possible, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, totally. Awesome.
yeah.
Is there anything else? I have one last question, but is there anything else about kind of the journey you're on, the situation that you would just want women to know or think about that might inspire them to take better care of themselves?
Well, definitely being screened. And one of the things that's really helped me is I'm on social medias, Facebook, Instagram, but I did not share my story on those particular platforms because I felt it wasn't the audience to connect. What
Mm,
I did do for myself, I started vlogging my journey and posting that on TikTok.
yeah.
And through TikTok, the number of women that I have connected with from all over the world going through the same journey I am. Our diagnoses are different, but we all have breast cancer. We all have a different story. But the community that we formed, I would encourage every person to just reach out to community for support because you don't realize how important it is. They have lifted me, they have carried me, they have prayed for me, they have been with me, and we just we have built these lifelong relationships now that we know we're going to be connected in this way for the rest of our life. And
Yeah.
it's made such a difference just reaching out. Even like this, just talking to you, talking to another woman, just talking to women in general. So many of us shut down. We think we're so independent, we don't need anyone.
Yeah.
No, we need these relationships. We need to hear from other women.
Yeah.
We can learn from other women. It's so important.
Yeah.
And that's what I would encourage women to do. Whatever it is, find that community and support and go with that.
I love that. I really do because I do think uh, I mean there's always good and bad to everything, right? And but social media has gotten so sort of demonized, but it is a
Yeah.
connector when we have isolated lives,
Yeah.
when
Hmm.
we have to be in isolation or when we are just separate and we need a different kind of community than maybe the one we have. But also to
Correct.
I mean, I know that I would not have survived so many things in my life without my women, right? Like
Yes.
they
Yeah.
are the ones who are like, no, 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 keep going. You don't
Yeah.
get to give up, right?
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think about, years ago, I went through a really bad bout of depression, and the women that surrounded me were like, you're not giving up. We will
Hmm.
hold you until you're ready to get out of bed, right? We got this, right?
And that's what you needed.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I couldn't have named it, but they knew,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And that's the beauty of this and being able to have these kinds of conversations for sure. Which
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
part of why I'm doing this is I think so many of us feel alone in whatever we're going through.
Right.
And what
Right.
is named is you're not alone.
And
You
we're
don't have,
not alone. We're not alone. And that's what I've learned on this journey
Yeah, I
You
love that.
know, we're stronger together. And one of the things I've done for some of my breast cancer friends, I've sent out these bracelets that say, um, you're not alone, stronger together, because it's a reminder we're not alone.
Yeah, I love that. I love that.
So
Is there any and I ask everyone this question as a closing question. If you were going to give younger Judy any piece of advice, it doesn't have to be about this particular thing, but anything that you think might be inspiring to women and girls who are watching this, what piece of advice would you give her?
one of the things, Bible scriptures I live by is this too shall pass.
Yes.
This too shall pass. We're young, we think, oh my God, this is the worst thing on the planet. I'm not going to survive. What's going to happen? Woe is me. It's going to pass. It's going to pass. Everything takes time. Everything happens for a reason, but it will get easier. And that's something I tell my daughter on a regular basis. When I see her struggling in her 30s and, dealing with life and dealing with finances and dealing with kids, baby, it's going to pass.
Yeah.
It's going to pass and it's going to get easier.
Yeah.
And that's what I would tell my younger self.
Yeah, I love
Don't stress. It's going to pass.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. I mean, I used to have this magnet on my refrigerator that said, if everything will be okay in the end. If it's not okay, it's not the end. Right? Like
I love that. I love that.
and I was like,
That's
okay,
great. Yeah.
everything will be okay in the end. If it's not okay, it's not the end. Keep
Nope.
going, keep going, keep going. So I love that.
I love it. Thank
Thank you.
you.
Thank you for talking to me and to us today. And
Thank you, Leah. I appreciate it.
that was so,
This is
so
great.
good. If you're
Thank
watching
you.
this video, you will notice that there's a little QR code in the corner. We're raising money for the Malala Fund, which helps support the education of women and girls, often in Indigenous places where they may not have had that access, and then also helps with STEM education and medical and legal and things that women want to aspire to and get access to. And the Malala Fund helps women and girls get that education. So if you'd like to donate, click on the little QR code and make a donation. At the end of the month, I'll donate all the money to the Malala Fund.
That's wonderful.
Yeah, thanks again, Judy, and we'll see you soon, hopefully.
Thank you so much, Leah.